You know, I hate to say it, but I think we're actually starting to see the beginning of the end of Snapchat unless they make a completely fundamental change to their platform. And it does make me sad because I liked Snapchat for a while, although it seems like Instagram has just been eating its lunch and it makes a lot more sense to use Instagram. Not to mention because of the discoverability, it's a lot easier to find people you want to follow on Instagram and find new content than it is on Snapchat, where you have to basically go directly to them. But that's not really besides the point. The reason I think Snapchat is going to fail soon unless they change something is not necessarily even because of the redesign, but because they aren't listening to their customer base. I think that is a much bigger red flag than the redesign itself. Yeah, the redesign itself really does suck. They took the stories and kind of mixed it in with the rest of your friends list and put friends in your list up high, even if they don't have a story posted. It doesn't really make sense. And then they also made an entire tab. They moved all that stuff over and made an entire dedicated section full of like garbage. I mean, you look at the stuff on there, it's just complete BuzzFeed nonsense, clickbait garbage. Let's look at some of these examples. It's like he disappeared into thin air. Wow, I really wonder what that's about. I'm gonna click that. These are actually kind of genius. Yo, is he a low-key genius? Better than the iPhone? I would seriously like to know who the hell is clicking on this content. I don't even want to call it content. It's just a dumpster fire, and yet they dedicate literally half the app to it. And I think that's a big problem. But like I said before, besides all that, not only did they do this, but people hate it, and they're like doubling down on it. And there was actually a change.org petition, not that those actually ever do anything, but it can give you an idea of how many people care. And there was over 1 million signatures on that petition. So really, people do care about this. And I don't know about you, but I've actually noticed, just even on my personal Snapchat, I have gotten a lot less views on stories. And this seems to be pretty consistent from other people posting and who use it a lot more, like big brands, and they say that their engagement is way down, and that doesn't surprise me. Even like Kylie Jenner, I really have no idea what the whole deal is with that person is. Apparently they're famous just for being famous, but even she apparently was a big user on Snapchat and basically tweeted that she doesn't even use it anymore, and this apparently caused the price of Snapchat stock to like plummet like 20%, and it's still down. Funny enough, Snapchat stock did actually go up towards the end of the year because they announced actual earnings increase, and then they released this update and it tanked again, so it completely ruined whatever they got. But another big problem with Snapchat is they're just not better than their competitors. I mean, Instagram is copying them, yes, but they're also doing it in a better way. They're improving over it. They're taking their existing user base that actually has discovery, and they can actually promote users on, like, unlike Snapchat, and they're basically making it so people would rather use Instagram. And it's kind of funny because Instagram basically took all of Snapchat and put it into one feature and then does it better and can get it out to more people. But is this all really going to kill Snapchat? You might think, all right, that's exaggerating. I mean, surely there's plenty of people who still love Snapchat. And I agree, that is the case, but you gotta consider this. Look, a lot of people hate the new Snapchat, and there has been a decrease in usage. Clearly, there have been reports by lots of people saying this that are like professional Snapchatters or brands, basically. And here's the problem. So yeah, you're gonna keep the hardcore Snapchatters, but you're gonna lose a bunch of the casual users who are like, this is stupid, no one's even watching my stories anymore, and they're gonna move over to Instagram where everyone is anyway. I think like everyone has an Instagram if they have a Snapchat, and then you're only going to be left with the hardcore Snapchat users. And yeah, that'll last for a little while, but guess what? A social media network is useless if it doesn't have users. And even the hardcore Snapchat users are going to eventually discover that if none of their friends are on Snapchat, then there's no point in using it. And then even the hardcore users are going to drop like flies off the platform. So the fact that Snapchat is ignoring their customer base and doing this thing that is all across the board hated is not going to be good for them in the long run. Now, one thing they probably think is that, oh, well, we need to increase revenue or whatever. And yeah, with all this garbage now with a dedicated tab that they can monetize, they might actually see, funny enough, an increase in revenue in the short term. But it's not going to last. In the long term, if you don't have users, then it doesn't matter how much more you can monetize each user if there's none in the first place. And yeah, if you do follow me on Snapchat, you'll notice I literally never post on it. I don't even know the last time I posted on it, but I do actually post on Instagram every once in a while. I'm not a super active user on there, but I do post stuff, and I do post stories more often than I ever did on Snapchat, and certainly more often than I do in the, regular posting of a picture on Instagram. And I think that's a really good compliment to the Instagram features. So it's not like they just stole the Snapchat features just for the heck of it, but it rather does increase the usability of the app, because maybe you don't want to post something that's worth an entire permanent post. You just want to post something that's cool, and then that is a perfect use case for stories. Whereas Snapchat, it can only do the one thing, and yeah, it is good at it. It's nice and kind of unique that you can send messages and they disappear and all that. They were the first ones to do that, but they didn't really evolve past that, where Instagram started with one thing and is constantly adding on to it. I really do think Snapchat is kind of in trouble, at least in the long term, because Instagram, we do know, has been adding like hundreds of millions of users. It's pretty crazy, whereas Snapchat has been stagnant and obviously recently just dropped, like we said multiple times. So you got their competitor way increasing in the number of users they're getting and increasing features and doing them better, and then Snapchat's like stagnating. They do a redesign that everyone hates. They're dropping users. It's not really looking good for it, and it is unfortunate. And here's another example of a feature that Snapchat has not implemented for some reason that Instagram did: multiple login accounts. So on Instagram, I have like a personal account, and then I have my TheoJoe account, which I do post on more often. But if I want to switch and post one to my personal, it's really easy to just switch between accounts. On Snapchat, I'd rather use my personal account for most of the time, and if I wanted to post something on the public account, I have to log out, log back in, type in my password, do the two-factor authentication. It's a hassle just to switch accounts, so it's not even worth it to me, especially when I could just go to Instagram and post the same thing and get more views off it. So yeah, obviously I can't see the future, but I don't think it's looking good for Snapchat, and the problem is their own fault. They are not listening to what their users are saying. It's across the board hated, and they're just being really arrogant, I guess, and just saying, no, you know what, we're going to keep this feature, and they're not willing to cut their losses on probably what they consider is something that was spent a lot of time and money on, but really in the long run it'd be worth it to just go back and fix what they had before instead of completely changing it. Obviously, what you guys think is just as important. You're the user of Snapchat just as much as I am. So you guys can talk about that. Do you still use Snapchat? Have you switched to Instagram? And again, if you do want to follow me on Instagram, it's just @TheoJoe. I try to restrict that to just quality posts on there. And again, story posts every once in a while for stuff that's cool. So yeah, if you do want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. And if you want to subscribe, I post a few new videos every week. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.